Hi, I'm Kim Rubenstein. I'm a professor in the Faculty of Business, Government and Law here at the University of Canberra, and I have made a podcast series called It's Not Just the Vibe, It's the Constitution, with a colleague, James Blackwell, a Wiradjuri Indigenous scholar, and we are so interested in hearing more about what you want to know about the Constitution and about the voice. So I'm here today with questions that you have provided to me to answer. I don't know what's in them, so let's see how we go. Number one, how did the Voice to Parliament come about? Well, this Voice to Parliament idea came about through the decision of both sides of government to actually ask Indigenous Australians what they want in order to be recognised in the Australian Constitution. There is no reference at all to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders in the Australian Constitution, and they weren't involved in the drafting of the Constitution. And we are at a point where there's no question that it is important to recognise them. This idea about how to recognise Indigenous Australians as the first peoples of the country came from them. What are the chances of a second referendum in case this one does not lead to a change in the Constitution? Well, this is a question of opinion, but in my opinion, they are very, very small. First of all, in all of Australia's history, we have not had very many constitutional referenda. So the fact that we're having one now is significant. Do you know how long ago the last one was? It was back in 1999. So we haven't had a constitutional referendum since 1999. So I would not be putting my bets very high on there being another one very soon. What is the question being asked in the referendum and what does it mean? So thankfully I have my cheat sheet here to be able to tell you. The question that's being asked is whether we approve of a change to the Constitution to recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders as the first peoples of this nation through a body called The Voice. But I think I do need to read you out the specific change. It's about a new section, 129, which will say exactly, in recognition of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the first peoples of Australia, there shall be a body to be called the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Voice. 2, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Voice may make representations to the Parliament and the Executive, Government of the Commonwealth, on matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. And finally 3, the Parliament shall, subject to this Constitution, have power to make laws with respect to matters relating to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice, including its composition, functions, powers and procedures. So we are being asked, do we approve of that change? What will the Voice to Parliament do? Now this again is really important, and I come back to the actual section. The section says the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Voice may make representations to the Parliament and the Executive Government of the Commonwealth on matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. That is what it can do. It as a body can only make representations, give advice. It cannot make laws itself. It's still for our Parliament to decide whether it will follow that advice. So it's really an advisory body. But what's key is that it's protected. It will be protected in the Constitution. It can't be taken away. We've had other bodies that have been giving advice over the years and they've been completely removed. This cannot be removed. It will be protected, constitutionally guaranteed, but only to be able to make representations in the way that I've just described. How will the referendum directly impact First Nations peoples and those in remote communities? Well, this is really the key to the whole idea of a voice. It's not just a change to just recognise without any practical consequence. The voice and the idea of the voice that was proposed by Indigenous Australians is a practical mechanism to ensure representation from all around the country of Indigenous Australians for the very different experiences that they may indeed have, because we know not all Indigenous people will have the same life experience. But those varied experiences will be able to be shared with government with the specific intention of making those laws and the decisions under those laws influenced by the people who are going to be affected by them. That is what it's going to be able to do. What will happen either way of the vote? Like, what will happen if it's a yes vote and what will happen if it's a no vote? Let's take it that way. If it's a yes vote, then it's very straightforward. The next thing that will happen is our Parliament will have to pass legislation to be able to do what the Constitution is requiring, set up a body, determine its functions, powers, procedures, and it will then be introduced into Parliament. There'll be some argy-bargy in the Senate as to what will be in the legislation, but ultimately we will see the legislation introduce this body and it will start to do its work. If the answer is no, then we stay in the position that we are in now. There will be no constitutional change, and it will be up to future governments as to how they will actually make decisions about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, and it will be a rejection of a very sincere request by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders for a mechanism to improve not only their position, but also our constitutional state. Second last, penultimate question. Why do we need a referendum for the voice? Excellent question. And that comes back to this little document, the Constitution. The whole idea of the voice, and the voice proposal came from the Uluru Statement from the Heart. The whole idea of the voice is to entrench it, to make it secure in this document, the Constitution. And the only way you can do that is by involving all of us. The section in the Constitution about changing the Constitution, which this is doing, is section 128. And it specifically requires a referendum. And by that it means we all have a responsibility and duty to vote to make sure it's in the Constitution. If we were not having a referendum, then it would not be protected by this constitutional document. We're up to the very last question. I hope it's not too tricky. Who will the voice benefit or affect? In my opinion, that's very clear. It's all of us. Why do I say that? Well, first of all, this document that I keep coming back to, Constitution, is the rule book for the entire country. So any change is a change that affects all of us, but I'll be more specific. First of all, it's clearly going to have a direct impact on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, because for the first time they will be recognised in the Constitution, which is really significant. And secondly, it provides a practical mechanism to try to not only improve the extreme disadvantage that we see throughout the country, but also to enrich us as a nation by bringing in the 65,000 years of culture and history and ways of life into our society in a meaningful way. But the second part of my answer is that it actually assists all of us because it increases and enhances representative democracy. By that, what do I mean? Well, when the voice makes representations to Parliament and to the executive, it will also be filling us, the public, in on its advice. This will be the first time that Indigenous advice to government will be so transparent. In the past, people were handpicked by government to give them advice, different Indigenous people, and that advice wasn't necessarily always made transparent to us as voters. The voice body itself will enhance democracy because we, the voters, we will get a chance to hear what the voice is saying, and then we'll be able to assess whether the decision makers either follow that advice, or if they don't, they'll be telling us why they're not following that advice, which will make it more understandable for all of us, but it will also give us a basis to decide, do we want to re-elect those people who have made those decisions? And this will be another area that we can assess how well they've done as our representatives in Parliament. So for all those reasons, I think that the voice will really benefit all of us. So I hope you've enjoyed that series of questions that I was able to answer for you today. And I even hope further that it will provide you with some further information when you make your decision, when you come to vote. And if you found it interesting, and even if you found it slightly interesting, can I encourage you to go and listen to James Blackwell and my podcast, produced here at the University of Canberra. It's not just the vibe, it's the Constitution. It's available on all podcast platforms, and given the Constitution really does affect your life every day, I'd really encourage you to listen to it. And if not before the referendum, then certainly after.